The Africa Youth Employment Clock, a first of its kind digital tool that projects youth employment trends in Africa, has been launched by the World Data Lab in partnership with the Mastercard Foundation. Now, the clock, present in 54 African states with sub-data for Kenya and Rwanda, monitors real-time job growth broken down using key variables such as employment status, age, gender, and sector up to 2030. Now, it aligns with the Mastercard Foundation mission to enable 30 million young people in Africa to secure dignified and fulfilling work by 2030. On the sidelines, we're just going to be looking at this. Let us look at what this story has.
The Africa Youth Employment Clock is the first data model of its kind that is special in a number of ways. One is it has all the numbers. It has all the countries, and for Kenya it has all the counties, and has all the types of jobs, and it has the ages, and has it always adds up. And the key second part is it's now casted and forecasted. So it's not data, it's not an academic paper or a nice report from, say, the World Bank where I used to work that tells you what was happening last year. It tells you what will happen likely next year. And that's much more useful for journalists and for policymakers and the community at large.
Today marks a significant milestone with the launch of the African Youth Employment Clock. This tool is not merely a resource, but a beacon of hope, offering detailed labor market insights that enhance our approach to tackling youth unemployment. In Africa, this issue is urgent, affecting not just our local communities, but resonating globally. It's an emergency that necessitates swift, collective action. The clock symbolizes our shared dedication to Kenya's youth, embodying our commitment to employ data-driven strategies and steadfast commitment to unlocking their potential.
We want to increase the number of productive jobs that can significantly enhance the average household income, contribute to economic growth, providing dignified and fulfilling jobs for expanding the youth population that can lead to a resilient recovery from economic challenges such as those that were presented by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, on the sidelines, our reporter Nicole Njuguna spoke to Dr. Wolfgang Fengler, who is the CEO World Data Lab, on the recent launch of the Africa Youth Employment Clock, on the trained labor export market globally, and how we can ensure our people command a premium. Let's listen in.
The first key priority, as you highlight, is to get the data right, because if you get data right, you can put emphasis to the right priorities. One surprise today for some was that construction is actually the fastest growing sector in Kenya for jobs for young people. And then comes ICT and retail, wholesale and other service sectors. But then one key thing is, don't always think the government does not create any jobs, except a few for government and except teachers. The key is you create conditions so young people can become entrepreneurs and create their own jobs. Young people don't just need jobs, they can create jobs. How do you do this? I can give you a long list, and some things have happened, like electricity is much better than it was 10 years ago, roads are much better, internet is much better, but internet should be even cheaper. India and Pakistan have cheaper internet. How do you get cheaper internet? Not subsidies, not interventions, competition. Open the market, make sure new companies come in, and cheap internet is one of the best medicines for new jobs for young people. It speaks to Kenyans that they're well skilled and can go abroad, and brain drain can be brain gain, because people may come back, or at least they send money back. And maybe you're also attracting others, because Kenya becomes a hub, maybe then Tanzanians and Ugandans start to work here, and I know some of them. So think of the job market of a dynamic part. Don't think of a fixed cake, that if somebody leaves and you fight for this piece of cake. Think of a more dynamic market. And the key is that those who left come back at some point. Because if they go elsewhere, they learn. At least they learn for life. I learned a lot. I lived most of my life outside my home country. And with that skill, I now can bring it back to my home country. And that's the key. But how to have people come back? You need to create a vibrant, dynamic, and very pleasant place to live. And Kenya is on the right way. Basically, while Kenya has somehow, in terms of those people who don't have a job, among the young people, surprisingly low number, only 15%. The number of those who have a job often don't have a good job, and 90% are informal. To some extent, in many African countries, informal is normal. Maybe some of the informal parts also want to escape the tax system. So there may be some opportunity to add there. But still, that's the key question of how can you convert the hustler jobs, or how can a hustler become maybe not a banker, but at least something in between, how become an app developer. That's some of the core question, and not how you create necessarily more jobs. Building on that, the more people doesn't mean more unemployment. It means a bigger cake, it means a bigger market, bigger opportunity. It means some risks, as you know, I saw in some neighboring countries, when people don't have a job and are frustrated, then go on the streets and topple and create a lot of instability and conflict and violence. So it's a challenge, but it is an opportunity, especially in the global perspective, because there's two big forces in the world today. One is youth demography, where the number of young people is shrinking everywhere in the world, except in Africa. So you can close that gap. And how do you close it? With digital? Because then you can work from here for a company everywhere. And often these are mixed companies that are partly here, partly elsewhere. And so that's the way to close it. But for that, it needs to be easy to run a business, and internet costs should be cheap, and electricity needs to be reliable.
Now, Kenya is among other African countries sourcing for more climate change